This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
All right, a lot to get to. Drake Maye to talk about. Greg's ready. I'm ready. Before we get to it, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Also take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, we're going to get into Drake Maye, full breakdown from Greg. But first, some bigger NFL news happening just a little while ago, Greg, as we tape this on Tuesday morning, early afternoonish, and that is the New York Jets. The New York Jets have acquired Davante Adams. They picked up his entire contract. They have traded a conditional second-round pick for Adams. The conditions, one of two things needs to happen if this pick turns into a second-round pick. Currently, it's a third-round pick. Either Adams has to be a first or second team All-Pro, or he is on the active roster for an AFC championship game or Super Bowl. Just your thoughts on the trade, and let's start with the price. Would you have paid that price if you were the New York Jets?
Yeah, if I'm the Jets, I mean, look, it's they're basically throwing everything at the wall right now. And they are, I mean, they changed out the head coach. They're going to bring in Davante Adams. They've gone all in on this season. They've gone all in on Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, if I'm the Jets and I'm the idiots running the Jets, yes, absolutely I do this because this is what the Jets do. It looks like the team is like teetering on, and I even heard Aikman after the game, and I didn't watch a ton of last night's game. We had some car troubles going on here at the Bedard household. But I heard Aikman in the post game, and he said something along the lines of like, this is teetering on the brink of like they could basically like give up on the season. And of course, what do the Jets do? They go out and they overpay for an aging diva receiver that, Aaron loves. They haven't played together in a very long time, who has, hamstring issues and other things. So, for the Jets, yes. I mean, if you're asking me in the context of like, should the Patriots have done it? And I'm sure there are people out there be like, yeah, they should have gotten him for Drake Maye. He needs a weapon. He needs no, the Patriots are not in a position to get a guy like Davante Adams. We've said that all along. You do not. I mean, just look at the issues that the Raiders had getting Davante Adams, and that was Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. They brought him in. I mean, I understood it at the time, but given hindsight, you do not bring in a diva receiver who's going to have a microphone in his face, and when he gets 3 receptions for 12 yards, he's going to be a problem. And the Patriots aren't there yet. You want, who knows, maybe the rest of the season with Drake Maye, you see something, and they're going to get a receiver or receivers after the season. But now's not the time for a team like the Patriots.
Yeah, I think it's obviously an overpay. Is it a dramatic overpay for Adams? Probably not dramatic given the conditions of the pick, but paying his entire contract, like the Raiders didn't really have any leverage, and the Jets kind of just gave in and said, well, we'll take the entire contract, and, we want to stand firm on a third-round pick, but then we'll end up giving you a conditional second-round pick. So the Raiders got, I think, as much as they could have gotten from this trade, especially financially. And this is a desperate owner in Woody Johnson trying to keep Aaron Rodgers happy. And here we are. We'll see if it unfolds the way they hope it unfolds, because Woody Johnson was speaking with the media today, and he was certainly pushing this idea that there's still a lot of season left, which there is. And, there should be some hope there, and that he's doing everything that he can possibly do to make this team a winner. Will it happen? I'm not so sure. Other guy in Vegas, Greg, that I want to ask you about, Max Crosby. There's a video out there of him, shoving a coach and yelling about, trade me to Detroit or whatever. If you were the Patriots, would you be interested in Crosby? Or is it similar to Adams and you say, we're not there yet, it's not worth, paying that money and paying the price that it will take to trade for a Max Crosby?
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't really ever considered that. I will just say this, and a lot of it would have to do with how much term he has left on his contract because look, it's not about this year; it's more about next year and the year beyond. Um,
Right.
but um, yes, if Max Crosby to me, and this is a guy that I've watched a lot of film on, that I want to say that I was pretty early to the party on Max Crosby before he became Max Crosby. Um, from watching the film, I love Max Crosby. He is a culture guy. He never stops. He is relentless. I don't think he's gonna bitch and moan. I think that if you can bring him in and be a building block, now I also need to check how old he is and things like that. But if you think you can get 3 good years out of Max Crosby, 100%, I would bring him in because I think he's awesome and is a real culture guy.
I have answers for you. First, he turned 27 in late August.
Okay.
So he's 27 years old. His contract, he signed a 4-year, $94 million extension. Looks like it has an out after this season. So there could be some wiggle room to rework a deal and get him long term and make sure that he's happy financially. And if you don't do that, his contract is very manageable when you look at what he's set to make. I mean, his cap hit is it's large, but it's not crazy. It's 28.2 million for 2025 and then 24.8 in 2026. So the cap hit's not huge, especially with the space that you've got. So, if you did bring in somebody like Max Crosby, you do have the wiggle room financially, and he's 27, so you could easily argue that this is a guy that has, 3 or 4 more years left in the tank at least. So, just an interesting name to keep an eye on because it seems like he's getting a little frustrated with the situation in Vegas as well. All right, a couple of Patriots things I wanted to ask you about. Nick Leverett released. Is that a temporary move?
I hope so. Actually, I'm just checking my text because I sent out a few texts about that. I have not received a response yet. Look, I know, Nick didn't play well last week. And my read on it, Nick, is that it's a numbers game right now. And, they have a bunch of injuries. I mean, who knows how long Lowe's going to be out. I wouldn't be surprised if he has to go on IR, getting rolled up again. They have plenty of guards, and Nick's really a guard, but, I think he's done all right. And it's not like the Patriots have a ton of centers. I mean, I know they're going to get Cole Strange, up to speed there. Who knows whether that actually happens and he's able to play at center this year. For the team. I would hope that my read on it is it's a numbers game and he'll be back on practice squad, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they just thought he was that bad.
All right, we got to get to Drake Maye, but first, Greg wants to tell you about Prize Picks.
You're absolutely right, I do. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now earn up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. I missed this week. Thank you, Jalen Polk. I was somewhat close in a few areas, but we'll be better. We'll get back on the winning track, especially now that I can see a little bit, what Drake Maye is going to do. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right. It's time, folks. I know you've been waiting for this, the Drake Maye breakdown. I want to get into the good and the bad with Greg in a minute. And I will say, I read some other people that I respect and appreciate, Andrew Callahan's piece and Evan Lazar at Patriots.com. Greg, a tougher grader than those two guys. And I think that's been established. So we have to keep that in mind that Greg is a tougher grader than some other people who break down the film. But before we get to, the ins and outs and the minutia of it, Greg, just your biggest takeaway from watching Drake Maye on Sunday.
I would say, well, there's a bunch of things, but I'll say this. I think Number one, let me say this and get it out of the way. Drake Maye is a playmaker. So he made plays. It took him a while to get going in this game, and it was sort of in spurts, and a lot of it was sort of in quote unquote, you would say garbage time, but I don't really care because he's a rookie in his first time, and the Texans are still playing people, so I don't really care about that. But he makes plays, and that's what he's a playmaker, and that I think was a breath of fresh air for people, especially Patriots fans, because it's been a while since they saw somebody who can make plays. I thought I had him for 11 11 plus plays in this game, which that's a lot for a Patriots quarterback. That's Maye's 11 plus plays, and I give him a half a point boost for his touchdowns to Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. We're tied for the second highest in a game since 2021. Since Mac Jones had 12 in the 2023 season opener against the Eagles. So that's what people expected, and on that front, Drake Maye delivered. I'll say my other big takeaway, Nick, and this is sort of like a bigger picture takeaway, is seeing Mac Jones on the field and watching him on film. I do not see a huge difference from the Drake Maye at UNC, the Drake Maye in the preseason. I don't see a quarterback that you can just say like, oh man, they've really fixed his footwork. They've tightened his motion. He obviously has a much better understanding of NFL concepts now. I understand why they sat him. I did not come away thinking that. I came away thinking this is the same guy expected. I mean, there's ups and downs. He'll make plays. He'll throw balls to the other team. He won't see things clearly. His eyes will be in the wrong place. Largely the same guy I evaluated on film. So in that case, if you're not gonna quote unquote stick to the plan and revamp him so that when he debuts, he's this drastically different quarterback, that you've smoothed out the rough edges and gave him a really good foundation to go forward, then I think they just should have started him at the beginning of the season. I don't think him sitting for 5 weeks really benefited outside of things that I can't account for, which is I don't know where he was in terms of reading defenses or dealing with pressure. They internally very well, they could be saying, you have no idea where he started from. And I'm sure we'll hear some of that this week from people who are a little bit more friendly with the front office and the coaching staff. But to me, just in a vacuum, just looking at it, I don't see a revamped Drake Maye. I don't see Drake Maye 2.0. To me, this is Drake Maye. And if this is what you were going to be okay playing with, then you should have done the Josh Allen thing and just let him play from the beginning.
So do you think that they haven't had enough time with him to course correct some of these things? Or do you think the coaching staff has failed him? Because leading up to this game, we heard that, he's taking steps forward. He's progressing. He looks better. And there was a lot of credit being thrown towards Alex Van Pelt before Drake went out there and played a game that mattered, saying that he is getting better behind the scenes. And we had all of these practice reports from fellow players and coaches. And do you think the coaching staff has not done enough with him given the time they've had with him? Or, hey, look, it was week 6 of the NFL season, his first NFL season. And if you wanted that Drake Maye 2.0, you probably would have had to wait longer, if not much longer than you did.
I think to me, Nick, it's definitely the latter. I just don't think that's enough time. This is why I said in my draft evaluation of Drake Maye is he needs to sit for, basically a season. He needs like the whole time to be broken down and built back up. And that just it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice reps. It takes all that stuff. And, now seeing what we get out of Drake Maye, and look, we also, I'll readily admit, I'm not good at this about putting things in context about grading on a curve. It's just
Right.
it's a weakness of mine. You know, the Texans, yeah, we talked about them. Like, they're fast, they get after the passer, all that stuff. I do think that their secondary was kind of crappy in this game, and I know they were down a starter at safety and they were down a starter at cornerback. I mean, Jalen Pitre, I know he can come up and tackle and he makes plays, but holy hell, is he horrendous in pass coverage. I mean, the guys were open all day long on him. Those Pop Douglas plays, there was a Hunter Henry play. Like, I mean, he's getting turned around like a top in the middle of the field. And so, like, I do, where the Patriots coaches coaching Drake Maye to be like, look, these guys are good. They're fast. Just get the ball out. And, either get the ball out or run. Like, just make a decision, like, really quick. Could be. But I just think, in my experience, covering the Packers and seeing Aaron Rodgers and where he went from coming out of Cal, that was a 3-year process, obviously. Patrick Mahomes sitting for, the whole season. He probably would have been Patrick Mahomes, but if he played, but I just think it's not enough time. If you're going to say this is what we're going to do and he needs X, Y, and Z, then, as I've said before, you need to stick to the plan and not deviate. And in that case, now, if you really wanted to do that, now I'm on the side of you had to aim higher than Jacoby Brissett. I mean, I resisted that for a while, but if you were dead set, if Elliott Wolf and Alex Van Pelt were dead set on we're going to develop this kid the right way, he's going to sit, they needed a better quarterback option than Jacoby Brissett because, I think a lot of people could see this coming. I mean, there were a lot of people who've been around this team and around Jacoby who were telling me from the get-go, like, he's not any good. And you're going to see it the more and more. He does really well in practice, but when it comes to the games, he's going to hold the ball. He's going to be overly conservative, all this stuff. They should have gotten another quarterback to be able to keep Drake Maye on the sidelines longer. And so I think they've failed in that regard.
All right, let's get into some of the good that you saw from Maye on Sunday. Some of the plays that stood out to you and why they stood out.
So like I said, Drake made a lot of plays in this game. I will say, overall, you can basically put it in a few buckets. There was the last drive before the first half. Before that, it was not good. And by the way, it's not just my grading. I watched, JT O'Sullivan, the former quarterback who has a QB school. I'm a member of his Patreon club, and he did a breakdown of, actually, it was the whole Patriots offense. It wasn't just Drake Maye's dropbacks. And I will say largely his evaluation of Maye was in line with mine and along with the offensive system, which is he was just like, what are we doing on these routes? What are we doing on these concepts? Like, what the hell is going on? This is a rough offense. So Maye, I would say the end of the first half, he did really well. And then starting with the last drive of the third quarter, I thought he did really well. Outside of that, before those stretches, it was pretty rough. A lot of decision making I didn't love, but let's in the first half, the plus plays that I had, the little 8-yard pass to Kendrick Bourne. That's when the DT jumped the snap. Maye, he got his arm in there. Maye bobbled the ball a little bit. Loved how he kept his cool and he found Kendrick Bourne in the flat. That's a nice play. I would say the first sort of wow play, or I wouldn't say wow, but kind of made you sit up a little bit, was the 22-yard pass to Pop Douglas. It was just a little pass in the flat, but there was traffic bearing down on him. He was on the left hash. He threw it all the way across the field. He threw it flat-footed. He showed off his arm strength. I mean, Pop made most of the play. I mean, it really should have been a 5-yard play, and the defender sort of whiffed on the tackle. But that was when you were just like, okay, here we go, Drake Maye. Now we're starting to play a little bit. The first pass that Jalen Polk dropped, I thought that was really nice, and I gave him a plus, even though it was an incomplete pass, because there was a safety. There was an all-out blitz coming, a safety coming from way back, and luckily he was coming from way back there. He couldn't quite get home, but, that guy's bearing down right in Maye's face, and he
Yeah.
delivered the ball to Polk before he really got out of his break. That was an NFL really nice play. And then, of course, the Keyshawn Boutte pass. I mean, it was great protection, great job by Boutte stacking his route. He got on top of it. Perfect throw by Maye, and he threw it before Boutte was, even open. Put a lot of trust, sort of, gunslinger type thing with Maye. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad Boutte won his route. I'm glad Maye absolutely dropped a dime in the bucket because Demario Douglas was wide open in the middle of the field on the exact same route that he got like 30 yards when Maye threw a little bit behind him, and then he scored. It was the same thing, the same coverage, and Douglas was wide open. So, I'm glad it worked out, and it did. And so those in the first half, those are the plays that stood out where you're just like, it gave and I understand. I'm trying to stay away from a lot of media content in the wake of this because I knew what was going to happen, and I don't want to be colored by it. But I do know that Patriots fans came out of this game with hope, for the first time in a long time, and I don't disabuse them of that. I mean, I think that those type of plays and his playmaking overall was really good, and you see the good, and you're just like, all right, as long as he can start to minimize the minuses, the rougher plays, which he had a lot of. I gave him 17 in this game. But it's his first start. So if he can keep making plays and even make more plays as he gets more comfortable and then minimize the mistakes, you got something.
Yeah, given the level of competition, and again, Greg's not grading this on a curve. He lets everybody know that up front.
Yep.
Given the competition, given the situation with the team, the fact that I think he was in there a little bit earlier than the team anticipated. He probably anticipated, as you said, he probably needed to bake a little bit longer. I thought he was, he was pretty much, as far as a player, what I anticipated, which was some splash plays, couple turnovers, some plays that leave you scratching your head. He'll miss some easy throws. We know that. That's who he's been. Productivity-wise, he did exceed my expectations going against Houston. But overall, kind of big picture, we saw a lot of what we saw at UNC and what we saw in the preseason. So it's just whether or not he can continue to improve and get better as he plays, as the bullets are flying. And, that is still to be determined. I was encouraged by Sunday overall, thinking about the circumstances and the competition. I thought you walk away from that game feeling pretty good about him, but understanding it's only one start and there's a long way to go. Some of the stuff as far as the bad, Greg, I know you mentioned the footwork and the missed throws. I just want to ask you one question because I think it's something that's overlooked. When I look at other breakdowns, there seems to be, more emphasis from you on the pressure that Drake Maye took on Sunday and how much that was on Drake and the sacks that he took, how much of those on Drake. The 17 minuses, there are a number of plays there that are minuses because he took a bad sack. So just kind of break that down, how you look at it and what you grade, saying, all right, that was on the O-lineman, that was on Drake, and what you saw Sunday as far as that protection goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good topic for discussion. I will say after watching JT's breakdown, there was one sack and by the way, basically, on the overview, I gave Drake Maye partial responsibility of all 4 sacks that were in the game. JT O'Sullivan disagreed on 1 sack, so I might be wrong about that. But for an example of, something that I graded him down as a minus, where I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't. He scrambles. I think this was near the beginning of the second quarter. Maye scrambles up the middle for 11 yards. Okay, to me, that was UNC Drake Maye. He didn't give a chance to the play to develop. He just decided to take off before, Hunter Henry was coming open on this route concept worked all day. The guy in the slot against Jalen Pitre or whoever, the other safety, it was the same exact play. Hunter Henry was going up the seam. Pitre had turned around and Hunter was about to cross his face, and it could have been like a really big gain. But by the time that happened, Drake Maye was already trying to leave the pocket. Yeah, he got 11 yards, but I don't want him to do that. I mean, the play was there. The protection was there. He needs to throw that pass. So I didn't like that. Let me go through the sacks. Okay, Drake Maye sacked at New England 33 for -7. Will Anderson. That's when Vidarian Lowe was injured on the play. This is 3rd and 11. This play was all sorts of screwed up. I would be very interested to see how the coaches viewed this. So this is the play where Maye moved JaMycal Hasty from his right to his left. And it even looked like JaMycal was like, "Are you sure you want me to do this?" And by the way, let me just say this. The Patriots backs have not been good in pass protection this year. Especially without Stevenson. And Stevenson isn't great at it either. Gibson was really bad last week. Hasty, I would say Hasty's their best at it. The other Terrell Jennings who came in, oh my God, he's freaking horrible at pass protection. But anyways, so this is a play where Maye flips JaMycal Hasty from his right to his left. Now, and this type of thing happened multiple times in the game, and this is something they got to get sorted out. So, but on that play, Hunter Henry's already on that side, and he's chipping the end. Like, the Texans were threatening to bring an all-out blitz, and I'm sure it didn't look like Maye had the number sorted out right. He just should have left Hasty on his right, and then he could have helped out with Will Anderson. But maybe because of that, maybe because Maye realized he kind of screwed up doing that, his eyes were never down the field. He looked at the rush almost immediately. Henry's wide open after his chip for a check down. His eyes never get over there. To me, that was half on Maye. It was half on Jacobs. He also nearly fumbled on that play. 3:31 left in the game. Maye sacked for -5. Will Anderson. After the RPO fake, Hooper is wide open. Maye starts to throw it, but pumps and is sacked. He's got to get that ball out. Hooper's open. I don't understand the whole RPO fake thing. It was also very messy. I did not like the design of that. Let me get to second half. So the strip sack fumble. Again, in a criticism that I have of Alex Van Pelt, this is one of my big ones. Just not enough help for these guys. Not enough chipping, not enough keeping tight ends in. Not enough, especially, when you have Drake Maye out there. Bourne's coming open in sort of a second window. This type of play is why Drake Maye's there. I've seen him make this throw. It's similar to the Pop Douglas throw against the Jets. He has an under and an over. He has Bourne coming on an in cut. He has Hooper right behind him. They're right there. Booty was also if he didn't like the numbers to the right, Booty was open on the left. This is a tough play, but Maye has to realize my tackles aren't getting any help. I can't hold the ball. It's got to be boom, quick decision, get the ball out. And also, the pressure was coming from his open side. Like, yeah. He has to sense that better. And if he takes the sack, he's got to protect the football. So that was that one. And then, the last one was definitely on Maye. He wanted a home run past the Douglas, but the Texans were kind of lurking. It was sort of trap coverage. He had 2 checkdowns wide open underneath. He just tried to be a hero and held on to the ball too long. So, maybe we can quibble with one of the sacks, but I would say a vast majority of the sacks, Drake Maye had a hand in it. And this is, some of your worry about playing him.
The AVP stuff is driving me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
He did it with the Bosa matchup. He continues to not help out his tackles. When you have like your third or fourth string tackle out there and you're going against those two edges, to me, it's just unconscionable to not help
Mm-hmm.
those guys out more than they did. And it's simple stuff. My brain feels like it's broken when something so simple that we talk about that seems obvious to the rest of the world, and you're paying AVP whatever you're paying him, and he's game planning the entire week, and he doesn't do something as simple as, hey, we're going to have to help out Trey Jacobs a little bit more. It defies logic. It defies any kind of common sense. I don't get it. All right, before we get to the defense, Greg wants to tell you about Game Time.
Game Time is a place where you can go to get tickets for anything: concerts, football, and basketball. And we know basketball is coming up, NBA, NCAA. I know Nick's a big NBA guy. He loves being in the arena, the atmosphere, the Celtics chants, all that stuff. And to get there, you got to go check out Game Time. Check out their deals on NBA tickets, all events. Game Time picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the all-in pricing. You just hit the toggle button, and this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Love the panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy. I got to say, their app's really good, and it's fast, and it has a lot of features. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
All right, defensively, let's start here. What in the blue hell is wrong with the run defense?
How do I answer this? It's just like, and I don't want to hear any crying about, personnel and injuries and all this stuff and woe is me. Like, good, capable run defense, which the Patriots run defense is getting worse by the week. And Drake Maye can go on, whatever and say, well, it's just the 50-yard runs. Well, that's great. Besides that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Let alone the 20-yard run, touchdown run where he barely gets touched. Good run defense is all about being, assignment sure and holding up your block and everybody doing their job. And it's just disjointed. I will say, a lot of it, it's almost every time there's something different wrong. There's like, somebody doesn't get the edge and somebody else, compensates for that. And then, so they're out of their gap. And I will say, I would blame most of it on the linebackers. I don't think that they're hitting the holes enough. I would say the first big run of the game, Keon White, anytime I see him in a 3-point stance at right defensive end or at defensive end, instead of standing up, I'm like, oh boy. He's not as bad as like Dietrich Wise used to be as a younger guy, but he got completely blown out of his gap. And that allows the linemen to get up on the linebackers. Like, it's just, there's not a lot of synchronicity in the Patriots play. And when you don't have that, I think it's a byproduct of some of the things that are going on with this team, where, some guys are just doing their own thing. I mean, they have to be in sync. Everybody has to do their job. And when one guy doesn't, the potential is there against a good team and a good back like Joe Mixon to hit a big play. And I would say the big thing is, I think, Raekwon McMillan's been really poor. I thought Tavai had a tough time in this game as far as his run defense. This was one of his worst games, actually, now just looking at my sheet. But there was some of it with the safeties and the cornerbacks as far as edge contain. It's just not good. And to me, it's about coaching. They have to coach these guys up. They have to get them to buy in and be unselfish and do their job. And right now, that's not happening, it's unusual for New England. I think we can all recognize that.
Statistically and analytically, people will tell you that Devon Gottschall has been pretty damn good. run stuffing.
He was awesome in this game. Awesome.
Yeah, and teams are accounting for that. They now know he's like the one dude, and they're like attacking everybody else, and it's not good. And what's even more demoralizing is that you're giving up these performances, back-to-back 190-plus yard rushing performances against two offenses that had not run the football at all until they played you. Miami had one of the worst run games in football, and all of a sudden they found the magic elixir, and that was the Patriots' run defense. Houston, they got Joe Mixon back. He had been out, so obviously that plays a role. But this offensive line was not good blocking the run. I mean, when you look at run block, win rate, and some of the other statistics, they just weren't good. And then same magic elixir, Patriots run defense. They got to figure it out. Do you make any personnel changes, Greg? Do you look to maybe play McMillan less or not play him at all?
Tough to say, because one of the few snaps that Taki got in, he completely overran the play and they got gashed on the backside because, he wasn't there. I think they're going to have to. Let's see how he comes out of this game. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think about, do you just put Kyle Duggar at linebacker and just say, just go do your thing, which we all recognize that, like, him coming forward. And, I want to see him, the way he hits the gaps. Do you worry about him, taking on offensive linemen? I think back to when Adrian Phillips was here in his early days with the Patriots. Like, he basically had to play linebacker all the time, and he just threw his body around. Peppers would be an option if he wasn't going through his troubles. But yeah, I think they got to figure out what they're doing in a bunch of different spots. I mean, look, Godchow was really good. I heard Callahan last night on TV talk about how, like, Devon Godchow's being targeted and, like, wham block. To me, those plays weren't about that. And credit to Devon, he realized, like, nobody's blocking me. Like, most dumbass defensive tackles just charge up the field, and then there's even a bigger hole. But he kind of held his ground and did his job, which is take on the block. Only somebody's supposed to be there to fill the gap, and it's not there. It wasn't about the play on Godchow. And that they're going to run away from Godchow anytime they can. It's guys filling the gaps. But yeah, I think they need to figure out who's going to play run defensive end on both sides. I don't want it to be Keon White. I want him on the edge, wrecking people. And then at linebacker, I think they need to figure out, like, maybe you put Tavai on the edge. Maybe it's Duggar and Taki. But yeah, it's got to change because it's not good.
McMillan's been atrocious. Maybe Marte Mapu gets a shot here and there. And I will say, at least they did play more man defense, man coverage. It didn't work out great, but they did at least go in and play some man coverage. All right, just quick thought from you, Greg, before we get to the 3 up, 3 down. As far as overall coaching performance, you've brought this up, the AVP stuff, some of the defensive stuff. Is this staff getting any better?
No, I don't think so. That's where my frustration was. I understand Patriots fans were excited by the bright flashing lights that Drake Maye is, and he's certainly going to up your entertainment value on Sundays. And he's going to pull some plays out of his rear end. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a roller coaster. With Drake Maye. Hopefully, you smooth out some of the rougher spots, which is, what you're anticipating as he goes along and plays, and the game slows down for him and he gets used to the NFL speed. And plus, he's going to be playing the Jaguars team this weekend that has been horrendous in pass coverage. So, he could be even better over in London. But, basically my takeaway from this game, and, they lost by 20. Penalties are still a problem. The run defense is still a problem. The tackling, I will say, watching it on film, I didn't think the tackling was that bad. I think PFS had them for another 7 missed tackles. On film, it didn't really stand out to me that they were missing a bunch of tackles. Some of the issues, like there's busts in pass coverage. I think it was the Joe Mixon touchdown. Tavai gets rubbed and Kyle Duggar's just watching and he doesn't bump out and the guy's wide open for a touchdown. To me, Nick, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I came out of this game being like, all right, Drake Maye's fine, but what's really changed with this team? To me, nothing. I think they're getting worse by the week. We hear Gerard Mayo talk about, he's frustrated about it's the same thing game after game. Well, you're the head coach. You're in charge of this. Like, what do you think? It's just going to get solved? Like, if you could say we're telling them this and we're doing this, and but it's not working. So you need to figure it out. And I heard something. Mike Lombardi mentioned something about Dan Campbell when he started in Detroit, and we've heard Gerard Mayo mention Dan Campbell and Kyle Shanahan about how they started slow. That is correct, but I think it was the Lions started 0-10-1. His first season, Campbell's first season in Detroit. But largely they got better. You look at the scores, they were close. And obviously they didn't have the talent and, it's similar position to the Patriots, but, they got better as the season went along, even if they weren't winning games. To me, I don't see that. I'm looking for Gerard Mayo. We understand the personnel issues. I'm looking for Gerard Mayo and his coaches to impart I thought they were going to build a foundation of culture that they can build off of, and they would be getting better and better every game. Well, at a certain point, we're now 6 games through. We're through extended preseason. Does anybody see anything on this team that's getting better week after week? Do you see any players that are getting better week after week? You could make the argument that it's Demario Douglas, but I would make the argument that if they were better on offense, he would have been doing this from the get-go, and it's not really about his improvement. It's about just being able to function more and make more plays on offense. So that's where my overall frustration lies, is like, okay, yeah, Drake Maye's nice. He's nice window dressing, but the problems that are at the foundation of why the Patriots are 1-5, they're not getting better. They're getting worse.
They just don't really have an identity. You're now going towards week 7 of the season, and they don't really have an identity. I mean, they want to be a run offense. When they're going against defenses that they can run against, they decide not to run the football nearly enough because of Alex Van Pelt. When they try to run, they weren't able to run this past weekend. Their run game was atrocious. Defensively, it seems like they're still trying to figure out if they're a man coverage team or a zone coverage team, and how exotic they want to be up front. You've had a month and a half now. You've had a month and a half to figure out what you do well and to lean in on what you do well, and it feels like they don't. And of course, you change the quarterback, so that's going to change some of the offensive stuff, but it just hasn't been nearly good enough. And they've got the Jaguars, Jets, and Titans coming up, and I know the Jets will likely have Devontae Adams, but I mean, these are games, especially Sunday. You gotta be competitive if not win a couple of these games coming up, because Jacksonville's awful. They look lost, as lost as you've looked at times, and the Titans are going through things. Will Levis has been just abominable. All right, check him out. BSJ, Bedard Giardi, $50 for the year. Don't forget to download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5, and then also take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Again, that code is CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. So check out Game Time today. All right, world's fastest 3 up, 3 down. Greg, what do you got?
So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to give sort of like guys who were thumbs up for me and guys who were thumbs down. I am not this week going to put Drake Maye in this. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I put 1 interception on him. The tipped interception wasn't his fault. It was Zach Thomas's fault, the left tackle, for not cutting the end. That's not his fault. He fumbled. They produced 3 touchdowns. I definitely give him credit on Booty and Pop Douglas. The Hunter Henry one was just a complete bust by, guess who? Jalen Pitre, because he blows. So for this week, Drake Maye is not on my list, but I anticipate him getting there. So Michael Jordan, I only had him for 1 knockdown. That was my only minus play in this game. I think he's been terrific. Demario Douglas, awesome. Booty, okay. I mean, he had the touchdown. Had some nice routes, didn't get the ball at times because Maye wasn't seeing the field quite right. I thought Hunter Henry was good. Devon Godchow was awesome. Keon White was really good. I wanted to get his name right. Jaquelin Roy,
Yeah.
number 94, outstanding. I want to mention Ben Brown, the center. I thought he did a good job in this game. He was much better in pass pro than he was on the ground. Actually, he didn't. I don't think I had him giving up pressure. So, I know we criticize the personnel department a lot, but credit those guys for finding Ben Brown and Jaquelin Roy, who I thought did a really nice job. And that would be it for the ups. The downs. Terrell Jennings, he stinks. Zach Thomas, tough spot, but he was not good. DeMontre Jacobs, not good. Jalen Polk, terrible. Austin Hooper, can't have that fumble. On the defensive line, nobody down. Jelani Tavai was terrible in this game. Raekwon McMillan was not good. Jonathan Jones had a really tough time in this game. I know there was some conversation about Gonzalez got owned, and he definitely got owned on the Diggs route on the touchdown. But I thought Jonathan Jones had a much tougher time, and they sort of picked on him. I didn't think Gonzalez was great in this game, and that would do it.
All right. That does it. Greg is off to Felger and Maz. I am off to, I don't know, doing something in Virginia Beach. Everybody enjoy the next couple days. Of course, we will have the Jaguars preview coming up soon for you. He's Greg. I'm Nick. Peace.